he believes the public has the right to have all the truth, not just what's provided by the mainstream media. He was following his principles. He passionately believes in free speech, he said, freedom of the press, and his overwhelming desire is to expose the truth. The judge said that the breaches were not accidental, negligent, or merely reckless. They were deliberate, direct, and flagrant.
Is Tommy Robinson a martyr for free speech or a dangerous extremist? The answer isn't as simple as you might think. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. As Robinson sits in solitary confinement claiming mental torture, his supporters rally while critics call for stricter measures. But what's really happening behind those prison walls, and why does it matter to you? Tommy Robinson, born Stephen Yaxley-Lennon, is a figure who's managed to polarize British society like few others.
This is a message to each of you who are thinking about the 26th of October. Maybe you're worried, maybe you're scared. Maybe you think you might lose your job, maybe you think you might get put in prison. Let's send a message to the world, to Keir Starmer especially, that the fight is not gone, okay? Not in us anyway. I am travelling back to the UK for literally the fight of my life. Men right now are fighting for their lives in prison, who have been falsely imprisoned, unlawfully imprisoned, pressured and forced and blackmailed to plead guilty to crimes they haven't committed. All of this will come up in our documentary, which will premiere on the 26th of October.
From his humble beginnings in Luton to becoming a lightning rod for controversy, Robinson's journey is as complex as it is contentious. In his early years, Robinson was just another face in the crowd at Luton Town football matches. But it wasn't long before he traded the terraces for the political arena. His transformation from football hooligan to far-right figurehead wasn't overnight, but it was certainly dramatic. Robinson founded the English Defence League, EDL, in 2009, ostensibly to combat what he saw as the spread of Islamism in the UK. Robinson's self-proclaimed mission: to protect British values and culture from what he perceives as the threat of radical Islam. He's positioned himself as a champion of the working class, giving voice to those who feel ignored by the political establishment.
Tommy Robinson has been jailed at Woolwich Crown Court for 18 months after admitting contempt of court.
I mean, he's effectively been jailed for repeating false allegations he made over the past 2 years that were in breach of a court injunction. He, for 2 years he didn't, and then he started repeating them in online interviews and in a film. He made a 90-minute film that was shown a number of times.
But here's where things get murky. Robinson's criminal record reads like a rap sheet of a seasoned offender: assault, fraud, drug possession, you name it. It's a stark contrast to the image of the crusading activist he tries to project. Yet despite his controversial past and a mere 19% approval rating in the UK, Robinson has managed to cultivate a dedicated following. How? It's all about his message. Robinson taps into a vein of discontent that runs deep in certain segments of British society. His supporters see him as a truth-teller, someone who's not afraid to tackle the tough issues that mainstream politicians shy away from. Robinson's anti-establishment rhetoric resonates with those who feel left behind by globalization and rapid social change. He speaks their language, shares their frustrations, and offers simple solutions to complex problems. It's a potent mix that has proven resistant to scandals and setbacks. But what drives Robinson to continue his activism in the face of constant legal troubles? Is it a genuine belief in his cause, or something else entirely? The answer, like the man himself, is complicated. Robinson's motivations seem to be a mix of sincere conviction, a desire for attention, and perhaps a dash of opportunism. The truth is, Tommy Robinson defies easy categorization. He's neither the working-class hero his supporters claim, nor the simple thug his detractors denounce. He's a product of his environment, shaped by personal experiences and societal forces. Understanding Robinson means grappling with the complexities of modern Britain, its class divisions, its struggles with multiculturalism, and its ongoing debate about national identity. But just as we think we've got a handle on who Tommy Robinson is, his story takes an unexpected turn. Behind bars, Robinson faces a new set of challenges that could reshape his narrative once again. Tommy Robinson's latest stint behind bars has sparked a fierce debate about justice and free speech in Britain. Is this a case of a serial offender finally facing the music, or a political dissident being silenced? The truth, as always, is far more complex. Robinson's contempt of court case is a masterclass in legal brinksmanship. He breached court rules not once, not twice, but a staggering 10 times. The judge didn't mince words, describing Robinson's actions as involving a degree of sophistication and a deliberate attempt to maximize publicity. It's hard to argue that Robinson didn't know exactly what he was doing when he published his film Silenced, repeating libelous allegations against a refugee. But here's where things get murky. Robinson claims he's being subjected to mental torture in solitary confinement, spending 21 hours a day locked in his cell. He argues this treatment is excessive for a civil offender like himself. A psychiatrist allegedly warned that such isolation would be devastating for Robinson's mental health. Yet, 9 months on, he remains in solitary, with no transfer to an open prison in sight. This raises uncomfortable questions about the UK's prison system. Watchdog organisations have long criticised the use of prolonged solitary confinement, especially for non-violent offenders. Are Robinson's conditions truly justified, or is this a case of the punishment not fitting the crime? Robinson's legal team has tried to paint him as a free speech martyr, driven by passionate beliefs rather than malicious intent. It's a compelling narrative, but one that Justice Johnson firmly rejected. All his actions suggest that he regards himself as being above the law, the judge stated during sentencing. It's a damning assessment that cuts to the heart of the debate surrounding Robinson. The case becomes even more convoluted when you factor in the $81,000 bill from the Attorney General. Robinson calls it financial terrorism, an attempt to silence dissent through economic pressure. His supporters see it as further proof of a system rigged against him. Critics argue it's simply the cost of repeatedly flouting the law. So, what's really happening behind those prison walls? Is Robinson being subjected to cruel and unusual punishment? Or is he facing the consequences of his actions? The answer likely lies somewhere in the messy middle. While Robinson's treatment raises legitimate concerns about the UK's use of solitary confinement, it's hard to ignore the degree of sophistication the judge noted in his repeated breaches of court rules. But the story doesn't end with Robinson's imprisonment. His case has become a lightning rod for larger debates about free speech, the role of the judiciary, and the treatment of controversial figures in British society. As Robinson continues to make headlines from behind bars, these questions are only going to become more pressing. Tommy Robinson's case isn't just about one man's legal troubles, it's a mirror reflecting the deep cracks in British society. The debate surrounding his imprisonment has exposed raw nerves about free speech, the role of law, and how we handle controversial figures in a democracy. Robinson's supporters see him as a canary in the coal mine, warning of threats to free expression. His critics argue he's a dangerous rabble-rouser who's finally facing consequences. But both sides miss a crucial point. How we treat figures like Robinson will shape the future of political discourse in the UK. Experts predict Robinson's case could embolden far-right groups, complicating the landscape of political activism. It highlights the tightrope walk between protecting free speech and enforcing the law. Some are calling for reforms to clarify how the justice system handles cases involving political dissent. As viewers, we can't afford to be passive bystanders. We need to grapple with these thorny issues, even when it's uncomfortable. The challenge is finding a way to safeguard both security and liberty, a balancing act that's essential for a healthy democracy. It's not about picking sides, but about understanding the complexities and demanding thoughtful solutions.